We're back at the Sleeping Grush Inn. There's a cozy roaring fire in the fireplace, mugs of fine drink on the table, and bowls of questionable stew in front of us. Welcome one, welcome all. Pull up a seat and let's hear a tale of your adventures in Phelan. I'm Lowmaster Matt.
I'm Phelan Jon.
And welcome to the Sleeping Grush Inn podcast. This is episode 24, and it's a doozy. We have a lot of friends here with us today, so let's just go around the digital table and introduce everybody. First of all, in person is the Blade Mother herself, Julie. How's it going today, Julie?
It's going great. Glad to be here finally. I do have to keep a low profile. So I've observed no trouserites in the room. I'm okay to be here.
She's standing in the corner in the shadows, just for those of you, obviously, who can't see. We also have Jen, our art dictator, with us today. Jen, how you doing? She has disappeared again. That's all right. Colin, how are you today? Colin was with our design team.
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Awesome. And Jeff, also with our design team and heading up the Bright Sword division. He is with us today as well. How you doing, Jeff?
Yep, doing well.
Awesome. Great to have everybody here. Before we get going, let's have a word from our sponsor, Cardboard Corner Cafe. Jon and I both are sitting here with the Autumn Gin Sour in our hands. I think it's time to take a drink of this and pass judgment.
I passed judgment before. This is my second one.
That's and he's talking about today. He's not talking about before. That is an absolutely fine drink. Cardboard Corner Cafe is the premier gaming cafe in Kansas City. If you are in the Kansas City area, stop by here. There's a ton of tables. There's a ton of games, great drinks, and fantastic food, and definitely good companionship here. There's a lot of fine folk that frequent this place all the time. It's always hopping. If you're in Kansas City, stop on by. All right, we're going to skip the on the table until Jen gets back. Jeff, you just came through the Mid-Mitten Game Con. Could you tell us a little bit about that and maybe one of the games that you played there and what you may have learned or found out through that game?
Yeah, Mid-Mitten Gaming Con was a fantastic time. We raised $2,000 for charities and played a bunch of games along with that, which was really fantastic. Yeah, so I didn't actually play any games there because I was running the whole thing.
Yeah, you're busy.
So, yeah, I was a little bit busy, so I didn't really play any games. I was telling Colin that yesterday. But I have played a few games of Free Blades lately. And a lot of them have been play testing for the Streamline rules, so I don't want to get in the weeds there. But I played a really great game, Grular versus Trazerites. Recently, I was Grular, they were Trazerites. And he was running a Ravager and a Daclys Ravager and a Velazor Knight, and it was all I could do with the Grular to hold him back. But he had all the tools to stop my elusive and my evasions, and all the tools. And so I just got trounced. I got wrecked in that game. It was really bad. But he didn't win it until the last. We were playing by rounds instead of by break value, and he only won it on the last round of the game.
Wow.
He was able to pull off a win there. So it was a really fun time, but those Ravagers are really mean. If you're having a hard time, if you're playing Trazerites and you're having a hard time with Blade Dancers or other elusive models, try out a Ravager because they shut down post-combat abilities and make it really a hard time to... They have active defense, so you can't actually get away with them with elusive. It's pretty good. So... That's my 2 cents there.
Awesome. That's a great battle report, Jeff. We really appreciate it. Jen, are you here with us again?
I have made it back. Sorry.
No, you're fine. That's great. We're going to do our on the table segment. There's been lots of cool stuff on all of our tables right now. I'm sure that we could all talk about what we've been painting and what we've been working on. But Jen, tell us a little bit about
Can
your.
we?
Well, after this segment,
us
maybe.
can.
Why don't you tell us about your current project that we saw during the Chiefs game the other day?
Yeah, so as everyone should know, because you've already splashed it, we have the Inner Sea campaign coming up early next year. And I take forever to paint, so I am working hard on getting that campaign free band together. And I started with my Caradel Blade sister that I painted years ago for a paint contest, and she won it. But she has this gorgeous orange trench coat that I painted her in, so I've always meant to have her be leading her own free band and have everybody match her. And so in putting everyone else together, I did a couple fun things. Everybody basically has an orange life jacket on. That's trench coat.
That's awesome, Jen.
All right, that needs a rule. Okay, I'm taking a note, Jen.
Yeah, I call them my safety first, Falcarins. And then I painted the Breton stripe.
That's
Not
awesome.
perfect because it's free-handed, but technically the Breton stripe is supposed to be the white is twice as wide as the blue, and it helps you be seen if you go overboard. So, they're all about safety. So everything with that free band, the way that they're colored, everything, it's to keep them safe at sea.
We're giving you a rule. We're gonna make it happen.
That's pretty awesome, Jen. They look fantastic. What you showed the other day. For those of you who don't know, Jen paints during Chiefs games for good luck, and so far this year it's worked out
We
pretty.
kind of wish you wouldn't. I'll pick another day, Wednesday.
So
I was worried when I finished the dragon, my Magma Throckensor. I thought when that was done, that might be the end of our Super Bowls. But luckily, it seems like they're enjoying my other paint projects too.
I really appreciate you being too busy to paint on Christmas. I talked to your family about that. You got too many responsibilities that day to be painting.
That's awesome.
Anyway,
All right, so the big podcast. We are talking about the Black Friday event. It's coming up in under a month now. By the time you all are hearing this, it's going to be a couple of weeks. It's going to be really awesome. John, why don't you just tell us a couple things about this release before we get into the weeds on?
yeah, I'm going to summarize it, what's happening, and then we're going to ask members of the company that work on individual projects to kind of give their take on some of these things. The first thing is, of course, and these are all interconnected, so I'm going to list them in order, but actually you have to kind of do them all the way we do business, which we really like. There's a new living rule book going to drop, Three Blades Living Rulebook 24.3, the associated downloadable stat cards, model stat cards. We believe, concurrently the drive-through cards will be up in drive-through. But of course, I think we talked about it before. They require a physical proof to be shipped to us and be approved. And if there's a glitch, that might cause a timeline event. But we're ahead of the game compared to the last release. So we're knocking on wood here. But certainly the download cards will be up at the same time. And then 11 models. And the team's going to take you through all the models here in a moment. Matt's going to kind of run that, kind of herd those cats. But what's the characteristics of this is a mixture of models like we normally do with a release that support the factions that have not gotten one in a while, We're very sensitive to that. We use that as a decision-making criterion that what's coming out of this release, we go back and look at who's had to go a couple without a model. That's high on the list of why we pick what we pick. But also, this 24.3 is going to include, in addition to the little tweaks that we make, we find something we can clarify or make better for you. The stats for the new models, and that is the 6 that got the 11 that are new faction models for the various factions, and a creature. There's a creature in there.
There's a couple, yeah.
Oh, that's right, Ashland. Okay, you know what? I'll let the experts talk about that. Some models, some of them might be faction, whatever.
John's getting off his script again.
Yeah, no, I'm off script because Miss Precise is sitting next to me, shooting daggers. She's also going to have words with Jeff about what rules are actually on the Ravager, but we'll get to that later. There are models and creatures, and now a model class that we haven't had in the game before called familiars.
Yeah.
And the team's going to talk about that more as we go.
And reference our podcast, our last podcast on
Which we talked about in a little more detail in the
Mhm.
previous episode, which was 23. All right. Okay. And that weekend, there will be a sale.
Yes, there will.
And we'll let folks talk about the sale at the end. So it's a new rule book, a new set of model star cards, which includes on the drive-through side an update pack. So you only have to buy the update pack if you've been keeping current. And then a brand new category of models, 2 new scenarios in the rule book also, additional other things. And a way to make this stuff less expensive by participating. So, bless you, sir.
All right. So John had mentioned the cards and the new rule book. We're going to start there. Julie, could you tell us a little bit about the work that goes into a rules release and the cards update? Yeah, don't not like you were saying the other night, but just 16.
Just a little bit of how much goes into it. Because, it's a half hour. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are quite a few steps that go into it. I mean, it all really starts with the play test, and getting those rules finalized. And that goes through a scrub and then another scrub, until we get into a form that we all feel really good about for the rule book. And then, you have to construct the cards to match that. And we go for the download cards first,
Right.
because that's the easy way to construct them. Get a strong review of all of those, and then we use those to create the drive-through set. So a lot of things have to come together for that. It's the rules, it's the model images, all that stuff. But that results in a releasable set of stat cards, and we're trying really hard to get everything to come together so that when the models drop, the rules, the Free Blades Living Rulebook drops, and the stat cards in both their formats drop at the same time.
A lot of moving pieces.
It is a lot of moving pieces.
If there's ever a delay, it's often because we're not going to settle for something that's not high quality, not the way we want it.
Right.
So if we have a model that comes out, and when we go to Casper to print it, it's not the way we want it. We can't paint that one to take a photo of it because it's not the way we want it yet. That has to go back into the system to get fixed, and then et cetera, et cetera. Right. So it's because we're pretty exacting about not being out there and not having them be the way we want.
Exactly. Colin is the head of the Free Blades division
For another week,
DTS games, and for another week.
he's not getting fired. He's getting promoted to.
Oh my gosh, that's you used this to announce that? Poor Colin. Oh.
I broke up with him over text.
Colin, is there any new rules in 24.3 that you'd like to highlight?
I think the biggest thing to highlight is the new caster options. I know that was our previous subject for this podcast, but we have the familiars coming out for the spirit casters. There's also, we're bringing out some of the power stones, which are the energy caster analog to the familiars. They're a focus magic stone that allows the energy casters to do a few things above and beyond what they've been able to do in the past. So we're trying to bring a little balance there by bringing some of the power stones out and bringing some new interesting options for your casters to allow players to shake up their free band and maybe make use of some of the rules that they haven't been using before when they're creating a free band and using a caster in it.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to those new familiar rules hitting and the new Power Stone rules hitting. And we have an awesome lineup of models for those familiars that you can take a look at. You go onto Discord and go to the Sleeping Grush podcast channel. We have a picture of all of those familiars up with our announcement from last week where we talked about the different familiars. Let's jump right into the
Before we do that, one more thing
John
you didn't mention
Go ahead.
is the 2 new scenarios, or make use of models that we've either recently made or making as part of this release. So the Druid's Grove focuses on the use of the Golot Druid. It's a club scenario. And Bloodfly Feast
Awesome.
Okay, moving on.
We'll talk about blood mounts in a minute. Let's get right into our model releases. The Zalik Warrior has been waiting for his day in the sun for quite some time. How long have we had art for him, John?
And, you know, I was thinking about that in the drive down. Were you were part of the company for Snakes and Skulls, the Snakes and
Yeah.
Skulls Kickstarter. You worked too?
I was brand new.
Brand new. So it was it's just three of us.
It was just the three of us.
Right. So it was one of our Kickstarters, 6 maybe. I don't remember what number it was. We kickstarted, we crowdfunded the Shakram and the Kandorans.
Yep.
And the Zalik Warrior was a stretch goal that was not met.
Right.
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 And so he's been sitting there going, man, you know,
Sad.
why haven't you made me yet? And it's interesting. He fills the role. I'll let Jen talk about the look and the development of the model itself. Talk about the rules. The role he fills, rules wise, he's about as pure a warrior as a model gets. Relies on Die Hard, has a nasty weapon, has to constrict. You don't want to stay in combat with him too long,
Right.
because it's he's already got lethal on the sword, so the crit damage is going to get better and better the longer that goes on. So, and you know, with 3 light points and 2 diehards, you know, he's going to stay there. You got to kind of overwhelm him, or get off him and come back. That was one of your talents, which is tricky because he has confine, if I remember correctly. But he's a warrior. He's a blade path. There's no super fancy stuff to him. He's not dodging out of combat. He's not dodging your arrows. You know, he's a line holder, you know, and with a D10 lethal weapon, able to deal some damage to the higher armor.
Awesome. Jen, we had some design challenges with the Zalik Warrior. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so he is an art that predates me joining the company, but luckily Bill did a great job on him. So there wasn't a whole lot from the concept art that we wanted to go through and change. It was when it came to sculpt that we started running into some things. Some of it is that when you sculpt something, it looks so large on your computer screen that you think this is the perfect scale size. And then once you 3D print it, you're like, oh my gosh, no one will be able to easily paint this. They aren't going to be able to dry brush the texture. So he was one of the models where we had to go back and really work on that scale texture to give you guys something to work with to paint. Either you can get really in depth and do cool, unique scales, or if you just want to dry brush it, it'll look good.
We like that utilitarian aspect, Jen. Thank you. All right, next up is the Ashen Lightbane, which is an incredible model. Jeff, the Ashen Lightbane has been your brainchild from the start. Can you tell us a little bit about the Ashen and their place in Phelan?
Yeah. So we have in Phelan Golats, and you know, people love Golats. You can run them as a pre-band, and there's a lot of lore out there for them as well. But one of the main things is they are the kind of avatars of the hearth, one of the Gaul. And so with the Ashen, as the Golat is the avatar to the hearth, the Ashen are the avatar to one of the Kehenin. And so the Kehenin are like devils in our world. And so they're evil. They're evil gods. You know, they're not happy at all. I don't know. So the Ashen is their representative here.
They're happy in their own way.
Phelan. What?
They're happy in their own way.
Yeah. They're happy in their own way. So specifically, one of the cool things about them is he's the weakest of the Ashen, the Lightbane is, and they run at the vanguard of an army to block out all light so you can't see the actual army. And that's their kind of role in Ashen society or Ashen military role. So hopefully, like we have the Golat Druid, you'll also get to see other Ashen come to light in the future. But we're really excited about the Lightbane.
And we're sitting deadpan across the room for that. Yes, I vote yes on more Ashen, and John's like, or not.
No, I mean, we're not. If the Ashen's doing his job, you can't
You
see
can't
him.
see him.
Right.
That's true, right? As long as he has dark vision.
And Jeff, real quick, where do they fit in the game right now? If you're gonna play Ashen the day they come out, where are you finding them?
You're going to find them as enemies in various scenarios that we have out there where you can run bad guys or NPCs. That's kind of where they live right now.
Their initial
Not for long.
Yeah, not for
Yeah,
long.
that's awesome. So, Jen, we have this brand new, almost a brand new faction with this Lightbane. It's a creature, but it's the herald of something new, something forthcoming. How did you go about designing art-wise the Ashen Lightbane? And talk a little bit about that process and the back and forth with the different people in the company and how that went.
Well, you and I had a lot of great lore conversations to kind of get down what do they look like? What do they represent? And some of that you're going to see come out is we decided that their skin texture, like if you take a log and you just let the fire burn out and you get that lovely white ash finish on the top with the cracks still being, dark black. That's kind of where we went for the skin on that one. Obviously, he's going to be large, just like the Golots. And so we had a few conversations about that. And then we really just wanted to make this guy look really, really amazing. So we played with the pose a little bit, and Neo had a blast, I think, with that weapon.
It is a
has
really
two
cool weapon.
ends. It's very stylized. It is very dramatic. And the pose where his whole body is going into that swing, when that hits, that it could do some damage. And given that he's the weakest of the Ashen, it could be interesting to see what we come up with next.
Awesome. All right, we're going to move on to the Bloodfly Swarm. The Bloodfly Swarm came about as we were talking about lore for Ischak, believe it or not, and we needed something that kind of fit a bill as a mosquito / carrion eater, but something that got large enough that if it swarmed you, it would, just turn you into a husk really quickly. So we came up with this Bloodfly Swarm, and we're really happy to bring those out for this release. Colin, how do those play in the game of Freeblades?
So as you said, it plays a swarm. So it's a group of individually weak models on a single base. So how that kind of plays out is each life point on that remains represents one of those individual weak models. So they make multiple attacks based on the number of life points remaining in the swarm. That also opens them up to some of our new counterplay rules that we're playing with area of effect attacks, potentially doing multiple damage to a swarm like them. Also, because the talk about the husks and the draining things, they have the ability to regenerate their life points by draining their victims of life points during their attacks. So when you manage to hit something with these, they potentially bring back more of their life points, or even get a temporary life point, adding to the number of attacks. And we're going to see them played out primarily in the new scenario, Bloodfly Feast, where you're searching a battlefield and these things are roaming around, having been attracted by the carrion on the battlefield. But they also can be used as denizens in some of our other scenarios, as they are roughly around the strength of some of our other denizen models.
Awesome. I really love the Bloodfly Swarm. It's a fantastic model. I've got one sitting on my desk right now that's awaiting paint eagerly. It shames me every time I sit down and I don't put paint on it. So I'm really looking forward to those. We're going to talk about the Grular Fearbringer next, but before we do, Jeff, the Grular are going through a metamorphosis in our world right now. Could you tell us a little bit about this metamorphosis, the shift, and how the Grular are being handled, and what the future holds for the Grular? And I give you permission to spoil a little bit.
Oh man, that's throwing me a curveball there. Yeah, so the Grular are going through a little bit of a change. Probably the largest shift that we're making with the Grular is that the Centaur are no longer going to be green skin as a race. We're changing their skin color to more of a like Mediterranean olive skin tone. So you'll see that on the Fearbringer model that's coming out here. And in addition to that, the Grular specifically are getting a slew of new rules that you'll get to experience when in the book. So they're getting a massive update as a faction, and I think it's gonna. I know it's gonna be really good. It's a lot of fun to play with, and yeah, it'll be a great time.
So,
Awesome.
we did talk about them and what we're doing with them in a previous podcast episode, in terms of, getting them back to their both fear-causing and mounted natures, emphasizing those more, and making their alliance with the demons more like an alliance and not like these guys are living in the same space and part of the same army.
Sharing tents.
Yeah. Okay. So remind me later. I haven't thought about that. Not sharing tents.
Mine.
Not sharing tents. Although I've thought about that too. With Scarlett Johansson or other people. Not Matt Gooch. So, but the all the skin tone thing is kind of important. As the person who kind of decided to make them, green skinned back in the day, when we say olive, what we want to do is we want to give the painter, the modeler, because ultimately we're a model manufacturer, we're all hobbyists, the widest range of yes answer to each of these skin tones. We say
Right.
bronze for trailers, we say white for failers, and we say olive for simpers. Then you're you have a broad range, and you just getting green correct, just isn't fun for the modeler. We're here for fun for them. And also the range is wider. If you're locked into something ending up saying green when you're done painting it, the swath of palettes is much narrower than they're olive skin go, and they have all this room to be creative, right? And that's what we want.
And you're going to be seeing some of those new skin tones, like Jeff said, on the Fearbringer, and then you're going to see some actual swaths brought out in the new year to help guide you in your painting.
Yeah, some tutorials and paint recipes. Right, yeah.
All right, Colin, tell us how the Fearbringer fits into this shift for the Grular and how its rules are playing into this metamorphosis for that entire faction.
All right, so the Fearbringer is actually a model that's been sitting in the wings for some time now. Is one of the earlier ones I designed, that we definitely took a second look at it as we went into this metamorphosis for the faction. It really is a cornerstone to bringing the fear-based playstyle forward for the Grular. Previously, the Grular had to rely primarily on the demon allies to trigger fear in the enemies. They didn't have a lot of inherent fear-bringing themselves, models that had the fearsome rule. The Fearbringer helps with that. They carry a grenade-like weapon that actually causes fear tests in enemies that are hit. No damage, but it's an area of effect they can freely throw at their enemies without affecting their allies. And further, they also make passing fear tests near them harder. So you're going to see a lot more use of the fearsome rule, failed fear tests when they're on the battlefield. And that allows you to take on a different play style than the hit and run cavalry play style. You could try and get in there and mix it up in a combat line with another faction, and relying on the ability to inflict fear to lower the opponent's ability to fight. And they aren't a bad fighter themselves, bringing a Morningstar and pretty decent combat stats of their own to the fight.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're really cool. The figure is going to blow you guys away. The model is just amazing. So that's one that I'm really looking forward to. I don't normally play Grular, but I'm going to have one on the table because I really want to paint it up because it's such a beautiful looking model. Way back in the first release, I think, of the rule book, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, we mentioned Scorpion riding Trazerites as some sort of ghost in the desert. Is that right?
Yes,
Was
it's
it
absolutely
that far back?
So There were chapter headers where there was a quotation. They let off with a quotation from someone in the background, and in one of them, Trizrite mentions, scorpions the size of a whatever. This is just a quick history lesson. Back when we were playing around with, I've been playing around with Phelan long before there was a DGS, right? In multiple expressions, not just a role-playing game. We had a fantasy miniatures game. We were using miniatures we didn't make because we weren't a company then. We were taking them from all kinds of sources. And we had the Trizrite Legion. We had a Scorpion Legion with giant scorpion models in it. We had a Velzar Legion with riders on dinosaur, bipedal dinosaurs. We had the Jaguar Legion. They had the people were painting them with the Jaguar coats, like the Jaguar pelt on them. And this was written into the history of that these legions took the name of a creature, typically took the name of a creature in the nearby area where they served. And so out in the deep desert, there were going to be giant scorpions because why wouldn't you want a giant scorpion? You wouldn't want one. So that teaser's been in there and everybody reads it, goes, where's my giant scorpion Trizrites? And we made them wait a really long time. So for the most patient players out there, this release includes the Trazerite Dune Crawler, which is a Trazerite model, a mounted model, a Trazerite soldier riding a giant scorpion. Very, very powerful model, very, very expensive.
Very.
It's gonna be hard to afford that guy. You had that guy probably instead of a Belzar Knight, or you had him in a Belzar Knight, not a lot else.
Right.
Or him in a Kyrgyzar, not a lot else.
Him and one other buddy just kind of him in the desert.
So the models are very, a very hard-hitting model with multiple attacks and pretty resilient, but just super expensive. So, but the idea that there are going to be other legions that are featuring inside the legion somewhere, a creature. There's a Kyrgyzar Legion. There's a Belzar Legion. There's a Scorpion Legion. Going to be others like it.
And when we release, there'll be some lore behind that, and it's going to kind of show a new area off. We've talked about before, but
Where they serve,
put a lot of detail into, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Jen, these models look amazing. The design of the what we're calling a Gorazon, but we'll talk about that in a minute, are incredible. Tell us how you came into this design. And again, it's Neo, and he just does incredible work on concept art. But everybody in your team really hit it out of the park with this Dune Crawler.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. The prompt that I gave Neo was we wanted it to recognizably be a scorpion. So, it has to have the tail stinger. We've got to have the multiple legs. It has to have the carapace. But we are a fantasy world. So whenever possible, we try and do a unique twist on things, something that makes it ours instead of, these are a dime a dozen. Everybody makes them, which unfortunately not everybody makes scorpions. They're kind of cool. But that was kind of the prompt that we gave Neo, and then I just set him loose, and that's what he came back with. And it definitely is large. It gives you that little bit of like, oh no, I don't know that I really want to go fight this that you would hope for.
You do not.
Yeah. It seems to me that giving Neo a little bit of detail and then turning him loose tends to end very well for us.
It does. That's actually generally the plan with Neo. Once in a blue moon, he'll come back and ask for a little bit more clarification because he's not quite sure which way we want to go. But for the most part, a lot of times he'll draw like two different things and he'll send both line drawings over and he'll be like, I could do A or I could do B, and we get to vote on those.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Well, we did not just the Trazerite Dune Crawler, but we also are doing just its mount, the Gorazon as a creature. Colin, we don't always separate mounts and riders. What was our thought behind doing it this time?
The thought was if we have such an epic mount that not all of our mounts would conceivably be combatants or dangerous in and of themselves, but a scorpion the size of a horse absolutely would be. So given that, if we already had such an epic type creature, there's no reason not to separate it out and allow it to be used in some of our scenario play as a denizen type creature in and of itself, clocking in around the same cost and power level as a war spider. So you can substitute in or even mix and match Gorazons in with your war spiders during club scenarios.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The all arachnid game, arachnophobia.
Ugh.
Right.
And Jeff, how do you see its rules playing out in scenarios? What kind of threat level are we talking about? We're talking about, maybe switching it out for the war spider, but what new things are a player going to be facing when they're looking at this or the Coruscant?
Yeah, I mean, the worm spider is kind of annoying because he can restrain you with his web. That's cool. The Gorazon just straight up murders you. I mean, just kills you so bad. It's really hard to. It's got some cool rules like Battler, which we don't see super often in our game. So it's got that. It's obviously fearsome. And then one of the cool things is, we wanted to represent scorpions. So scorpions grab things with their claws and then sting them to kill them. And so this thing has bear hug for the claws to restrain you, and then it stings you with its stinger. And so that's and then the poison from the Gorazon is more deadly than your typical poison would be. So it's a pretty cool model. You don't want to fight it one-on-one, and you definitely don't want its ire focused only on you in a group fight either. So
Awesome. All right, so for our final set of models, we're going to talk about the familiars. Now, we did this in the last episode in 23 of Might and Magic, so we don't want to get into a lot of detail, but we're just going to lightning through these real quick. Colin, tell me how the familiars are going to work in Free Blades, just real quick.
So familiars are an additional model that a spirit caster can be bonded to. It gives the spirit caster the ability to cast a spell using spell projector through the familiar. Additionally, each familiar comes with one meta magic talent, and when a caster casts through them, they can employ that meta magic talent without paying extra power. So depending on how you want to twist your spells just a little bit or tweak them, you pick your familiar to do that.
Awesome. And Jeff, we haven't talked a lot about Brightsword on this episode, but how do you see the familiars fitting into Brightsword?
I mean, yeah, your spirit casters can bond with a familiar and have a familiar running around, and they use the same rules where you get that free meta magic feat. But then you'll be able to spend your AP that you earn in Brightsword to level up your familiar if you want to give it extra meta magic feats or or meta magic abilities or what have you. And so they'll be spies or the spell projectors or any number of things that you can think of for these. I think spirit casters will really enjoy having a familiar.
Awesome. And Jen, we have 5 new familiar models. Talk about those a little bit. You can get into a little bit of detail because 3 of them are something that you're just not going to recognize, and the other 2 are kind of a normal animal in Phalon, I suppose, that we've designed new models for.
Right. So when we started this, we had the art because the Coronan casters, the Moon's Priest and the Moon's Priestess, their original art, they have their familiar with them. So the Moon's Priestess has the owl perched on her arm, and the Moon's Priest has the wolf circling around behind him at his feet. So those 2 we knew going in that we were going to have. And then I really wanted to do something unique, something that was Phalon specific. I know you and Jeff and I talked a lot about some different options, where in the world we could go to pull things. We did kind of stick with the cute and the cuddly theme for the most part. Your familiar should be something that you want to have near you. We didn't do anything creepy.
Although that's yet to come.
Right. I mean, we're just getting started here between this, and I think the animal swarm's going to also get familiar rules, right? So, a skunk familiar is adorable. Everybody loves skunks. But for this one of the things that I believe Jeff came up with this one, he was talking about in Southern Haredale, they have some fields with some giant bees that really help pollinate everything. And I was like, oh, what a cool concept. We've got that relating to the world right now where the bees are a little bit endangered by some things that are going on, and they're so important. So we did a giant bee which is absolutely adorable because we sculpted it on the flower to be able to support that body because we don't have a flying base. So the flower is beautiful. The bee is gorgeous. And then you're going to hate me on this, Scooch, because I did not remember all the names. I remember them as what I called them the whole time in my head.
It's okay.
So we did pick a Zarn for the Trazerites because we wanted that southern continent to have something besides just the wolf and the owl that they already did. And so we had talked about making essentially their version of a trash panda. So kind of their raccoon that's running around foraging in your trash. It's kind of adorable, kind of a pest. And we came up with something that's a mix between kind of a ankylosaurus and an armadillo.
Yeah, and we're calling that an Istrazol. The trash panda is exactly what it is. I mean, that's the role it fills there on the southern continent, so that's awesome.
Right, and they are cute. They follow you around and they help you with things, so they're absolutely adorable. And then the last one we went over to, I believe, the Simker because we hadn't really finished out that. Would that be the eastern part of the northern continent?
Yeah.
And so we wanted to pull something from there, and our inspiration was kind of like the Chinese dragon, where it flies, it's kind of serpentine, and so that's really kind of where we pulled the inspiration. We gave it some scales, we gave it some long tassels, and just made another unique creature that looks like something that you would absolutely want to add, and maybe you even pick one of the casters from there because you're like, I need this familiar.
Yeah, right. And that's a Surlax, and it's an interesting model in a lot of respects because it's also half demon, half animal. We have a special category of creatures in our world.
Probably all. Let's do a podcast on that.
We should. That'll be awesome. And so that it also gives that the ability to fly, which is something that most critters that don't have wings don't have in Feywild. So that's going to be an interesting model too. All right. So, go ahead.
Can you say the name of the bee?
Voavar. Yes, the bee is a Voavar. Yes, I just have that useless information sitting around on top of my head.
I don't think it's just.
I haven't heard it pronounced. I
Okay.
don't think
Ah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's true. It's sitting there on a little document, so I actually haven't it set up.
So, Julie, our listeners are definitely going to want these models, and their FLGS. I know they're going to want them to be in there too. So, tell us a little bit about the Black Friday sale that we're going to have, and then maybe give some information to our FLGS members that are listening where they could order these models to have them.
Yeah, so the Black Friday sale is going to be starting on the Wednesday of that week, which is, I believe, the 27th. And it will run through Monday, December 2nd. And the website deal is going to be 10% off any order of $100 or more. At the same time, that same day, I'll be releasing to all of our retailers the announcement of the pricing, and they can order from us, starting basically that same time. So those will all be available November 27th. Just a little note on how the familiars are going to be priced. We will be selling each one separately, so you can buy them separately if you like. If you want to get them all in a pack, there's going to be a very deep discount for the familiar pack. So you can, it's like 35% off, and then with the deal, it'll be even more, right? So that's for people that really want them all. We did recognize that a lot of people may just be wanting one or two, so we didn't want to restrict which one or two or make you buy them all just to get those one or two.
Luke, for example, he's got a brain on which one he thinks is the best, and only buy that.
Yeah.
All right.
The best is to collect them all. You definitely want all of the animals from Phelan.
Absolutely do.
Just make everything better.
Yeah, absolutely do.
All right, we're down to our final segment, and that is the lightning round. So for the lightning round this time, we always do a lightning round when we have a big group of people around. So this time, we're going to go around and we're going to talk about, just name our favorite figure from this release. We're going to start with Phelan John.
Me. Trazerite Doomcrawler, because no one's waited as long as I have.
Julie.
is Trizal, because what do you not want about a dino armadillo?
Amen. Jager.
Oh, you're
Yeah, come on. You played the game.
Our amazing producer, Jager, who's been sitting here silently so well this whole time. What's your favorite figure from this release?
It's got to be the new Chakra Warrior.
Ah, yeah.
Of
That's
course, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, it's Elite Warrior.
Jen, what's your favorite?
It's kind of, it's close because the Grular Fearbringer is a great step in the right direction for visually redesigning Grular. She's bringing sexy back to Grular without actually, being sexy because she's scary. But also the bee, which we said was what, the Vorax?
Boulevard.
Boulevard.
Right. So that those two are kind of tied.
Okay. Colin, how about you?
Fearbringer, because who doesn't love somebody who throws burning skulls?
Skull bombs for the win.
Jeff, what's your favorite model this release?
I've been really triple tie between Fearbringer, Bolivar, or Ashen Lightning, but I think I'm going to go with the Ashen.
Awesome. My favorite this time is the Bloodfly Storm.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
tough because
Yeah.
that's cool. And the scenario,
The scenario is so high.
just, if you're rolling the right dice, have those all lift off at you. It's
Yeah.
gonna be great.
It's gonna be scary.
And we can do more with that. We need more scenarios.
Oh,
More, attracted to certain parts of the battlefield, that kind of thing. There's a lot to be done there.
So much goodness coming your way. Folks, thank you very much for being with us this time. It was a little long, but I think we covered some great ground today. For our guests, the team, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to be with us. This was really fun and really awesome to have you all on. If you have any comments, leave those on the Sleeping Grush podcast channel. Please also, we are doing the job board, but we didn't get a question last time.
Ask those questions. Those why is it this way?
Yeah, give us a question and we're going to address that on air. So folks, until next time, we'll see you around the table.
Sil Sakava.